All right, thank you so much for coming. I know it's kind of the end of the fest. It's been a great time. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear me talk about my experience in UEFN. I'm doing collabs, commissions, and creating, and how I've survived as Jank here. Just a brief history of me for those who don't know. I originally started in the animation industry. I worked on many different things, from music video for AJR, from Netflix shows like Oni. I worked in my university, made a student Oscar-winning film, and I even got to work at Pixar making a crazy film called Elemental, where the main character was a light source. So really, at the end of the day, the Jank has always existed, but my real name is Austin Rodriguez. The name originally came from kind of just an anonymous name. I had a little bit of an anxiety when it came to posting on social media, and I needed some anonymity. Little did I know that in 2 years, I would be making projects for TMNT, for Clue, being able to make my own personal projects like Fortnite Football, and my soon to be released, hopefully by the end of the month, a Lego Pirates game. But to start off, to describe how UEFN is, I always use this term that it's kind of the Wild West. There is a lot of opportunity, a lot of unclaimed land. There's a lot of potential there, but there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. There can be, like in any ecosystem, like any new space, everything's still developing, whether it be the tools or there could be bad actors, as well as just a lot of pain points when it comes to delayed roadmaps and features that you're really excited for. But for me, I'm just gonna discuss a little bit about how I've survived with my survival guide. To note, the results may vary. My tips do not apply to everyone in every situation. This is just more of something to think about. Be like, okay, how can I apply this to me in my own situation? I don't have any kids, I'm married, it is very different for me and my experience here and the risk tolerances, but I'll discuss more about that later. The 3 arenas that I most work within is collaborating with other creators, doing commissions and contract work for bigger studios, as well as creating personal maps that, for me, that I wanna make that are just solo projects. But to start, I wanna talk about collaborating with other creators, working with a lot of the nerds in the room as well. I'm a nerd, and having a lot of fun doing it. For example, I'd like to just define what a collab, what I consider a collaboration is, and I'm working with other UEFN creators in the space, and we're splitting the engagement payout. For example, I worked and made Pizza Shop Tycoon with Slided Sloth and Trick Tiger that had a lot of success, and we were really happy with how it turned out. But as always, working with a team has its own kind of senses of risks. And just kind of discuss a little bit about what kind of the risks involved with there's uncertain payout. While you're working with this team and you're trying to make the best thing you can make, at the end of the day, you're still subservient to whether your marketing worked out, whether the discovery algorithm's working for you. And so it's not a for sure payment at the end of the day. It's high risk, high reward. And sometimes creators can be busy. I believe people in this room I have started projects with, and something happens, something gets distracted, a new thing gets announced, and the project itself kind of peters out. That is something that it happens to everybody, and it should never be taken personally, but know that that is something that can happen within a project. There's also a lot of trust required when you're working with another group or another person, because when you give them access to your project in UEFN, you're trusting them, they can see the source, they can look at your code, look at the assets, and so you really want to find people that you can trust. But along with risks, there are benefits. One of the best things about working in a team is that you can split up the work, that you don't have to do everything in a project. For me, I really like the programming side of things, and I know a lot of people who don't, and so working with people to split that up, they work in level design, I'm working on coding, is fantastic. As well as skill sharing. While I know more about coding, I can also show people what I've done, people can see what I've done, and you can discuss and learn so much just by hearing how other people think and how that can strengthen the whole. As well as builds community trust. There's an aspect of it when you work with a group of people, people notice and they'll see and they'll be like, oh, I like this guy, so if he's working with him, I I think I can trust him. And so that's one way to kind of get your name out there and get people to kind of know you and what kind of creator you are. I always recommend when you're working with this new team, you want to start small. You want to figure out a small scope project and release it. It's something little that can really tell you how you work together. Because sometimes, even if you're best of friends, sometimes a project you can kind of butt heads, or you have a different perspective on what players like or what kind of map you want to make. And so working in this smaller scale thing can really help you both prepare and see what you expect. There's nothing worse when you're working on a project for a year with people that you weren't so sure about, and just kind of locked in because you feel bad. You want to leave a project like that. But always important when you start to start with a plan. Discuss. These are some example questions to think about when you're starting a project. What is the ultimate goal? How will you resolve artistic differences? Whose code will the project be released under? What is the punishment for not checking things back in if they've checked them out? Things like that can really kind of develop a relationship and really that rapport that you need as you go along. And when you plan these things at the beginning, you're setting expectations. You're able to prep and be ready for any kind of problems that may come. When you decided in the stressful time of development, it can kind of hurt that project quite a bit. A survival tip, I very much recommend getting a contract for the collab. I'm sure you two are the best of friends. You guys grew up together. Everything's going perfect and great. I still would recommend getting a contract, talking to a lawyer, finding like a contract template. Things like that can really help just establish those expectations. Similar to creating a plan where it's like, okay, we're gonna be splitting 50-50, because there is a lot of money in this space that can, in a successful map popping off, it's good to have just those boundaries set up from the beginning. I also recommend picking a director for a project. This is something that I've found in a lot of my projects, that when you have a lot of voices, a lot of people have really good ideas and great opinions and thinking that, oh, this should go there, and this should go there. And you should listen to all of them. The collaboration is the best part of working with a group of people on an even playing field. However, when you have kind of one person, usually it's the person that had the main idea, they're kind of the last say. You want to pick someone that you can trust, that will listen to everyone on the team, as well as the team trust that they will pick the idea that would be the best for it. And so I also like to establish kind of taking turns. When I work with Sloth and Trick Tiger, we talk about this at times, because it's like for Pizza Shop Tycoon, that was kind of originally an idea that I brought to the group. And so I kind of was the lead on that. But the next project we want to have, Sloth is working as kind of the director of it. And kind of this last thing for this section is that no project is an island. What you do in every project defines yourself in the community. People talk. There are Discords, Twitter. We've all seen drama and the various things that happen in this ecosystem. And it's important to know and to act in kind of a professional way, but also an authentic way, to be honest and transparent with people. If you're having trouble on a project and you can't quite make time for it, or other life shows up, just be honest with the people you work with, and everyone will respect that. So the second section, for commissions and contract work. This is something that I have worked in a lot in the past year. When I define commissions, I'm talking about working for a larger studio or brand to create a map or part of a map. There are also commissions that can be with smaller things. Random users will ask you for little things. In this talk, I'm just talking about these kind of larger projects with a big studio that they're kind of hiring you as a freelancer or consultant. One example is this awesome map that I was able to work on called Clue Murder Mystery with Look North World. Look North World has a much more, a larger group, bigger budgets. They have lawyers and things like that. And so they kind of worked with Hasbro, and they asked me if I would help work on this map with them. And so it's something that's great because you're able to interface with this brand, but you don't have to have all the bells and whistles that's really needed when you have an agency and things like that. And so the idea that I was able to work on a Clue map is crazy. If I told baby Jank that when I was little, he would have lost his mind. I played this all the time when I was a kid. So it's a fantastic thing we can do to create these projects in this ecosystem. But it's important to know the risks. you get a little bit less, you get less creative freedom. You are not the boss of this project. You are listening to a manager, a director, a lead. And so I have found at times that you kind of can get a sense of burnout a little bit when you got to do something that you don't quite love to do. That's something I kind of felt at Pixar a bit, where I would get these directions that I wasn't sure about, and it can be a little bit draining. There's also a question about engagement payout loss, the opportunity cost when it comes to the engagement. Generally with brands that I've worked with, it's different. It's important to know it's different in every situation, whether you talk to. But in general, I have found that usually it isn't really going to be a split engagement pay. Usually it's more of a flat fee. And that can be both a benefit as well as a lost opportunity. A lawyer may be required. Sometimes on the bigger contracts, it's good to have a lawyer review like who owns the things that you're making and things like that. And so it's good to kind of have that as a backup. However, there are a lot of benefits. For me, it's a bit of an energy saver. When you're working by yourself, you've got to plan everything, do everything. There is something kind of almost chill about just like, okay, I'm just gonna code the platform that's moving. I can focus on that, I can do that, and then all the rest of the team is kind of filling in the gaps. And so there's a bit of it's a bit of an energy saver in that way. There's financial security in it as well. There's a lot of stability when you know that you're getting this flat fee or you're getting this monthly salary. And that can be very nice in an ecosystem that can be very up and down. It also improves your resume. When you have a project that I could be like, I made Clue Murder Mystery with Hasbro, that looks really good and can really help you down the line to both in conversation starters, and other companies can see that and know that you can be trusted with a project like that. But when it comes down to it, there are kind of two battles when doing commissions. It's finding the actual commissions and then working the commissions. The first, finding the commissions, there are kind of 3 recommended steps that I give to people when they ask me, like, how am I finding the brown projects? How am I being seen? Show your skills on Twitter. Legitimately, kind of like I said in the State of Unreal talk, really my momentum built when I just started posting daily on Twitter. I posted these warm-ups. I would work on a little thing for an hour in the morning and post it. Posting consistently, posting as much as you can is very important. And it doesn't have to be in a warm-up format. That's what I found worked for me. I know people that have posted they've got a big project and they'll cut it up into little bits and then slowly show it as they go. But it's very important for the ecosystem and for these businesses to see that not only do you do work and you do it well, but you're also passionate about it. You do it outside of it. If you weren't doing anything, you're doing this. And so they really like to see that. Be professional. It is so important, your public perception online. Every post you do, everything you post is seen and people will react. You can't control every way they'll react to it, but I really find it important to be, to be authentic but also optimistic, and to understand that even in this bumpy roller coaster of this Wild West, that everyone is working hard. People at whether studios or at Epic Games, people are pushing and they're working, and it's a huge studio. Like I worked at Pixar, and watching how a giant studio, the struggles to move such a large boat, it can be there, and it's found in every project, no matter the scale. I always recommend to take a meeting, hear out an opportunity. Obviously not every meeting, but I've had so many meetings with projects that never actually got off the ground, but I was able to build a relationship with the group for future opportunities. Because sometimes you meet with like an agency and they're like, oh, we want to pitch something to this brand or things like that. It's good to talk to them and get to know them, and that can also build a relationship. Learn to say yes. Their money isn't the only profit that you can get out of a project. I'm not saying do the project on, oh, we'll pay you with exposure. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, kind of like before, opportunities can be built up. Sometimes it's a little less money than you're used to on your hourly or something like that, but sometimes that time you build skills, you can build so much when it comes to it. However, at the same time, learn to say no. There will always be another opportunity. This space is so chock full of opportunity. And for me, I've always found that it kind of comes in waves. Like I'll get like 4 at once, and then 3 months won't have anything, but then I'll get 4 at once again. And so it's really important to balance your time and to watch out for your burnout and only accept things that you really feel comfortable choosing. I really think it's important not to compromise your brand or yourself, and that's something I'll talk a little bit more in battle 2, in actually working commissions. You're not their secret weapon, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the first thing you do, just like in collaborations, is get in a call and discuss the following questions. Like, you need to plan out and find out what their expectations are. There are times where I've been in a project where I had no idea they wanted me to do like a 6-month thing afterwards, or things like that are so important. Like, what is gonna be the live once it's released, what's gonna happen? Do I still own if I write code for them, do I own it? If I transfer my code from old projects to it, is that a problem? There are so many questions that you wanna be able to get out there in front of everything, and not because there's such a stress when the release happens that it's tough to get nail down all these things when you're mid-project and you've already spent like 3 months on the project, you've been half paid. Things like that can become problematic. However, I think the most important thing to remember is they need you. There are not a ton of people in this ecosystem. We have such an advantage and such a chance, whether you do verse or you do level design and you're publishing. There's so many people that have been working in this space for 6 years, 4 years, 3 years, so many. But at the same time, those are very individual skills. Sometimes we just know bugs that might happen on publish that other people don't. And so I really, really want people to remember that you need to value yourself. They need you as much as you, I mean, they need you more than you need them, really, because as you know this ecosystem. And so in that kind of regard, I always recommend people when they're working is that you are not their employee. Like, you're not that secret weapon. Make it a collab. Be able to ask for them to put your logo next to it. Talk about when they're marketing it, please make sure to @ me and say that, hey, I also worked on this project. Look North World was awesome. I asked them at the beginning, it's like, I want my name to be part of it. This is Look North World with Tom Jank. And that has been huge for me. It's fighting for your brand and it's building for your brand. And so the safest bet is put in the contract itself, but it's always just good to make sure where the credit lies. Something I recommend when you're working with a director and a manager, and you're working in this kind of creative space as part of a team, it's something that I kind of learned over the time working for so many directors at Netflix and Pixar, is I call it the poke technique. You ask once and then you move on. There are times where I have a strong opinion on something. I'm like, this is gonna break so much stuff. That's when you ask once. You say, hey, this is gonna break stuff, you tell them, and then you move on if they decide to ignore it or whatever, because 3 months later when it does break, they'll be like, oh yeah, that guy said the right thing and you're on the record. But if you overdo it and you just are constantly harping on it over and over again, they don't want to work with you later, even if you were right. If you're like, I told you so, it's all about that professionalism, working with a director and a manager. But now to what I think is much more fun, creating your own maps. May the odds ever be in your favor. It is truly so satisfying to be able to work on your own projects. If you've got kind of the runway for it, or if you're able to do that, this is your vision. It's your map, your idea, your story. For me, one of my favorite maps that I've made is Fortnite football. That kind of came up from a broken warm-up where I was picking up dinos and I kicked them across the room. And I was like, wait a second, it's kind of fun to kind of throw them around, and slowly but surely, it became a soccer game, and it was all custom physics. You don't even want to see the math, because that's the highest level of jank that I've probably ever coded. But I did all this math and stuff like that, and it was satisfying to release, and it did pretty well, luckily. However, there are risks when it comes to these personal projects. It's the riskiest financially. You are 100% up for it. The finances, even if it's 100% of the finances go to you, even if that's $0. The engagement power is the single financial source in these personal projects. Everything is your fault. You're completely responsible for every aspect of this map, from the marketing to the code. And for me, especially, there never seems to be enough time. There's so many ideas, so many new features, so many things. And so this is one of those times where you're really balancing, whether it be your financial situation or just having ideas, just too many ideas to pick from. But there's so many benefits. That's high risk, high reward. If you succeed with a personal map, you receive all the engagement payout. That's something that can fund further personal projects going on, and it's exciting when it hits right. You definitely level up your skills. Building a map and publishing a map from scratch is extremely valuable in this ecosystem. While there are a lot of maps out there, there are not a lot of people that really know that from 0 to 100 how to do all those things, and that can be so valuable. The amount of times I've helped commissions been way easier because I published my own map, or I'm like, oh, I know that this thing's gonna break on join in progress. Okay, I need to be prepped for that. That saves so much hardship. And there's just a creative satisfaction. Making your own map and succeeding and building something is fantastic, and as I'm sure many of you know. But in the same way, there are two battles here: being a creator and making a map. In this space, a lot of people have different opinions on this. This is kind of my perspective on it. We are a creator in this space, a content creator. And a lot of times I try to explain to people, like my grandparents, what I do. And so this is usually the line that I try to kind of, it's like YouTube, but you know how people make videos and they make money watching videos? Well, I make games. No, I don't work for Fortnite. I don't have V-Bucks. No. But I can, it's always fun to explain. But when it comes down to it for me, it's branding. As you guys have probably noticed, my name is Tom Jank. I say it a lot. My first GDC, I said it like I was a Pokemon. I just want to get my name out there, and that is so important to be recognizable. I like brought this hat. My lovely wife, she made this hat for me, and I wear it, and people will come up to you and talk to you because they recognize the brand, or they like what you do and you talk, and I'm so honored to be recognized in this way. Like, seriously, I do not overlook the great privilege that I've had so far, and I really put it down to just me putting my logo in as many places as possible. So, always be branding, always be branding, always be branding, always be branding, always branding, always branding, always branding. And so at the end of the day, marketing is also a skill. It's a game dev skill for us in this space. We are indie game dev people, and like I kind of said at the beginning, I was pretty anxious posting at the start of, I wasn't really sure what to post or how to post, or like I'd never even used Twitter before, but it was something that slowly built up as a muscle. I would post one day and I felt a little better, posted another day, posted. And so it just kind of builds. It was so weird one day that I was like, I like have this muscle that I just kind of know, oh, I know people will react well to this. And it's just something that comes with practice. And sometimes if you can't figure out whether it's like, hey, do I want to be posting warm-ups? Just start posting, see people's reaction. Didn't work, change it a little bit, always be kind of thinking about that. But the second battle is actually making the map. There's never enough time. You want to start with a plan. There are so many questions to ask. How long do you think it'll take? How long will the MVP take? Is there a hook that makes this a clickable game if I'm posting it on Twitter? Am I balancing, or how much do I want to balance mainstream, the things that are doing well on Discovery, or kind of my own innovations? Can I hire someone? Do I have any extra funding to hire someone to do some modeling that I don't want to do or don't know how to do? But I think always the most important question is, why this map? You have so many ideas. Answering this question for yourself will help you last through the entirety of the actual project. If your why this map is like, I don't know, you'll probably stop working on it when you hit that last 10% that is just so painful. But really hammering down why you want to make this map can really help you through that whole process. And I think truly, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Whether it be because of the gameplay is not quite working for the players, there's a bug, and sometimes it's seemingly for almost no reason. You're like, this should work, it should work. But it's kind of something that I have found has helped me get through projects not working out by accepting that at the beginning and just kind of having this expectation like, hey, this isn't the end of the world if it doesn't make it, but also sometimes you're just not going to get it right. Sometimes your game design, you got to learn a little bit more about game design. And that's something that helps me quite a lot. But kind of the last thing is what I believe is the superpower of a solo creator is the agility. This space is always changing. They announced Squid Game is coming out in like a month or so. There's new projects, there's new tools. We've got Scene Graph. And your power as a solo creator is that you don't have so many dependents. You don't have a full team that you've got to kind of move to shift. And I really think that that's something that's really helped me, that I've been able to learn this agility. It's like, okay, I need to learn this tool real quick to do this thing, or I need to practice to do this thing. And so you can pivot and you're able to make these kind of adjustments based on whether it be the trends that are happening or kind of the projects that you want to work on. And so you having the control over this pivoting and agility can be so powerful. Yeah, and thank you so much for coming to our talk. That was Tom Jank's Survival Guide.